Hello, welcome again to the online video lecture series Essentials of Matlab. This is chapter 7 Graphical User Interface and it's part 3. So in part 1 we have seen the component palette and we have described all the component palette details and how we can program that components. And in the second part we have created a Gaussian 3D GUI and we have write the callback for all of the components. But there were lots of things left in that GUI. We can improve that GUI in lots of manner. So let's go to that GUI back again and improve the things. So this was the GUI we were working last time in the second part. Let's run this again and review the GUI we have created. So in this GUI, all the buttons are working because we have write the callbacks for all of the buttons. Like if we click on the Gaussian, so this graph. So this graph is appear and you can click on the mesh or surface. So whatever you want, axis on, off, and similarly grid on and off, reset to reset the angle, view. You can rotate this thing in any direction. Okay. And there's a one more thing that we need to change here. Let's just restart it again. When we run this GUI, then axis is shown here. Okay. So we haven't plotted the graph here yet, but still the axis is shown. I want that when I will run this graph, then this axis must not be appear here. And one more thing, that when we click on the Gaussian curve, the graph will appear here. Okay. And before that, I want that this slider must not work, because if I click on this slider is working and all the other buttons are working. Okay. So what I want is, until the graph is plotted here, these buttons must be disabled. Okay. And there is a one more important thing. Suppose I am rotating this GUI in any direction. Suppose now we are in the this elevation position. Okay. And now from this position I want to move into the X direction. Okay. But again the graph is reset. So suppose if I want to move from this location, but again the graph is reset. Okay. We can say that azimuthal angle, this slider, and the elevation angle, this slider, both of the slider are working independently. They are not working in relation. Okay. So if I want to analyze my graph from this location and now I want to rotate in X direction, we cannot do that right now because it will again reset to the 32 position. Okay. So I want to correlate these two sliders and I want to make the axis off, and third thing, I want to make the buttons disable. Okay. So first of all, we will make the axis off. So to change the things before GUI start, so you have to go to the opening function. In the opening function, whatever you will write, that will process before the starting of the GUI. So opening function is the second function. Okay, this is the opening function. So in this, you have to write your command, and GUI data h object comma handle. This command is to save your data globally, because whatever you will write in this function will be local to this function, because itself is temporary workspace. But whenever you are writing this command, this commands will update all the values into the global memory. Okay. So to make the axis off, just write axis off. Okay. Now if you run this program, initially the axis is off. So now when you run this program, initially axis is off. Okay. And we can also change the background colors. Like if I double click on this canvas, so now you can change the properties of background, and I want to change the color to the black, and let's change this thing. Okay. And now let's just run this one. When I run this program, okay, so the color is not changed here because we haven't saved this figure. Okay, just click on save, and now you can run this program, just run this thing, and now your figure is okay. So now initially axis is off. When you click on the Gaussian, it will plot the graph. Okay. But what I want is, until I click on the Gaussian button, the remaining buttons must be disabled. Okay. So to disable the remaining button, you have to set their value as disable. So you can say set and handles dot, because handles is a structure by which we can access all the other elements, and we want to disable the slider button. So tag is asym. So just write set handles dot asym, then write the property you want to change. So I want to change the property of enable, and I want to make it as off. Okay, and similarly we can write this command for the another components, like for the elevation angle, ELEV. Okay, and similarly I want to disable this for the opt, that is the pop-up menu. Okay, and similarly I want to disable this for the axis and grid. Okay, and reset also. Okay, just axis, grid, and reset. Okay, reset, and when I run this program, so all the things will be disabled. Okay, just run this program. Now all the buttons are disabled, you cannot access these buttons, these are not working right now. Okay, so whenever you click on the Gaussian button, we want this all buttons to be enabled. Right now these buttons are not enabled, so we have to write the enable on command into the Gaussian function. Yes. Okay, so first let me just change the layout a little bit, the positioning of the layout a little bit. Now it's okay. So let's just make these things on. Okay, we want all them to be on in the gauge function. So just go to gauge and just right here. Okay, now you have changed the global properties of the GUI, so you have to write again the function GUI data h object, and this O is capital, comma handles. Now the structure will be saved. Okay, but the main thing, you have to make this thing on because it is off already. So just write on, 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 on here. Okay, so let's run this program. Now when you click on the Gaussian button, all the components will be enabled. Okay, so we just click on Gaussian and all the buttons are enabled, these are working. Okay, now you can rotate your graph in any of the direction you want. Okay, but still the graph is this slider is not correlated. Okay, because I want to use the value of this slider in this one and this slider value into this one. Okay, so to make these changes, so we can write a simple thing, simple command. Okay, so we want to make this variable as a global, so that if this variable is global, so you can use this in the elevation angle also, that is the L. In this function you can use this as a global, and if you want to make this as a global, so that we can use in the azimuthal also. Okay, so keep this in mind. In GUI, if you want to make any variable as a global, then you have to put just handles dot, that's it. So only handles dot, this word will make any variable as a global. Okay, so now you have made this variable as a global, so you have to save the changes because you have change in the global structure. Okay, so I can write GUI data and again h object comma handles. Okay, and let's just make this one also as a global. Okay, and this one also global. Okay, so now again just let's save the data. Okay, now this is okay, and we should remove the 32 from here because now the value is global and we can use handles.el, and here we can use handles.aj. Okay, let's save this program and just run this program. Let's see what happens when we run this program. Just click on the Gaussian. Okay, now we are having a graph. Okay, and just click on this button. Okay, so it's giving you an error. Let's just go to the Matlab and let's see what is the error. Okay, so whenever we are clicking here, it's giving an error, or if you're clicking this thing, it's also giving an error. So what is this error? It's saying that reference to non-existent field EL. Okay, so when we have clicked this one, it's showing reference to non-existent field EL. It means When you call this function as in, so here handles.el is not initially defined, okay, because el is only defined when you click on the L, okay, that's why it's giving you an error. So if elevation is not defined, we have clicked on the assume button, so az is defined. Now if we click on the elevation button, so az is already defined, now el is already defined, so it should be working right now, okay. So let's just click on these things now again, but it's not working because when you clicked on this function, so az is defined, but it's giving an error in this line. So it is not saved, okay, because this line is just after this one. So this line is not executed, and this is giving you an error. So in both the cases, the same thing happen. It means azimuthal angle wants the value of elevation angle, and elevation angle wants the value of azimuthal angle, and both are not computing. So you can solve this problem. There is a one more thing by which we can solve this problem. We can define the handles.az and handles.el globally just before the function definition, okay. So to define these things initially, so just go to the opening function. Here we can define, okay, handles.az, let's give the by default value, okay. By default means normalization viewing angle value, and el is also 32, okay. So now when we call this function az, so it will take the value of 32, okay, and it will rotate, and when you click on the el, it will take the value from el, and az is already updated, okay. So let's now just run this again, click on run Gaussian, okay, and now just rotate this thing, okay. Now if you want to rotate this graph from this angle, it will rotate, okay. Now all the graphs are, we can say all the angles are related to each other, and now this GUI is perfectly working, and you need not to change anything in this. And here completes your chapter 7. That is a graphical user interface. Thank you very much.